Hello, my friends. I'm back again. It's me, Luna, from Creepypasta Radio. Yes, it's almost been a year. And Happy New Year to all of you. I know I haven't said it, and I've been pretty distant lately. But I'm pretty sure that we can still work out our relationship as podcaster and podcastee. It's been a pretty hectic beginning of the year. I'm still in school, as you know. We've been together for a long time, haven't we? It's been I can't even tell you how long it's been since I've been doing this. I don't plan to stop, but this hiatus was too dreadful, and I didn't forget about you all, but those of you that are still here listening, missing me, loving me as much as you do, I appreciate it. And we're back to the Burgrr entries. Entry 5.5. I was beginning to get cocky. No matter how horrendous, every meat beast had an easy weak point. I was increasingly confident I could make it home alive, wondering if perhaps they had only put the world under some sort of hypnotic spell because we were simply too powerful, too dangerous for them to defend against. I was beginning to feel like a hero after all, like I was living my own video game. This self-important high was cut short on about the 15th level when the first real wrench was thrown into my hit things with a shovel strategy. The thing blocking my path was not made of meat. Not on the outside, at least. It appeared to be made entirely of iron, rugged and nearly black. A torso like a department store mannequin stood atop 3 jointed knobbly legs, and its single arm terminated into a pair of jagged tongs, periodically clanking shut. The oversized head resembled some sort of huge pot or boiler, with a pair of cartoonish painted-on eyes. An orange-yellow glow could be seen through its many cracks and vents. I didn't suspect there was as much as shovel could do against this one, and it neither backed off or approached. It simply stood there, waiting, daring me to make a move. I could see a dense river of meat bodies surging along the path only 3 levels below, making the same slow spiral around the tower as I was. Fragile or not, there was no way I could keep their numbers at bay forever. I wondered if I'd be taken alive. A dozen images flashed through my mind. The eggheads, the things I'd seen here, the things I'd seen in PETA propaganda videos. Any one of them could be my fate. Let's just talk about this, Sonny Mom. The voice snapped me back to reality, if you could call this a reality. It had come from in front of me, from the robot cook or whatever it was. What? It spoke again. It doesn't have to be this way, Missy George. Besides its mangled grasp of pronouns, it spoke English with remarkable clarity. Its voice was soft and feminine, with just a slight metallic quality. I'm sorry, was all I could manage, still dazed. We can put you right back where you belong, little thingadoc. We can even fix you up like the rest. You'll never know. I knew exactly what it was talking about. The brainwashing. As far as I knew, I was making first contact with a non-human intelligence. And I had a billion questions about what they were doing to us, where they came from, what else was out there in our universe or multiverse or whatever we might be living in. Only one thing actually came out. Fuck yourselves. It sighed a hollow, metal sigh, a little smoke escaping from its face vent. It seemed to sink a little at my response. If that's how you want it, whatchamawazzle. It rose threateningly on its 3 legs, and I realized what it reminded me of. A barbecue grill. In the blink of an eye, its clawed arms shot out and clamped around my handle to my precious shovel, effortlessly tearing it from my grip and dropping it to the walkway. Fuck. It shot out again, and this time got me by the neck. It slammed me to the ground, taking apparent care not to choke me just yet, but at least caused considerable pain. Its legs clanged noisily as it positioned itself directly over me and planted its metal ass directly onto my stomach, pinning me down even tighter. Lines of black grease began to roll down the thing's artificial face, sizzling furiously. I screamed weakly through the creature's grasp when a single, tiny droplet met the exposed skin of my arm. It felt like being branded. The monster giggled. Tee-hee, hee-hee-hee. It spoke out the laughter like it was reading from a bad script. If its eyes had been real, it would have been looking directly into mine. And if it had lips, I'm sure they would be smiling. It bent forward, the grease now cascading in a thick curtain, threatening any moment to start raining in hissing streams onto my exposed face. The claw around my neck tightened, finally pinching shut my airways. It was going to burn my eyes out while it strangled me to death. I let go the thing's arm to shield my face as best I could, wishing I'd had the foresight to be wearing heavier gray gloves as I awaited the torrent of boiling grease. The thing's giggling reaching a fever pitch. What? It stopped. The grease didn't come. Removing my hands from my eyes, I saw that the monster's head had turned away from me. You! It shrieked. I couldn't tell what it was looking at until it unexpectedly loosened its grasp on my neck and lurched to its feet. I could see small white shapes out the corner of my eyes. Ugh! Gross, gross, gross! It wailed like a child as the rubbery hobgoblin scrambled up its metal body like boneless gecko lizards. It started to stumble about, trying its best to pick off the teeming pests with a single arm, but they slipped through the claw like jelly. I wasn't sure how long it would be distracted, and I dove for my shovel before teetering painfully to my feet. I could see the swelling legion of meat just one level below. Vile things! Vile! They're in my vents! I was almost too fascinated to act. The hobgoblins had pried the lid off that rusty grill head, exposing an oily, blackened little form underneath. It was too tangled and burnt to make out, but I could see various limbs waving frantically to keep the gremlin things at bay. I raised the shovel, prepared to strike. All at once, the little creatures snapped their heads in my direction and dropped like flies from the metal beam, falling to the path and scattering out of sight. The grill face, too, turned towards me. Thank you. You have no idea what... I let out a berserker howl as I brought down the shovel squarely on that black, twitching body, splatting it with a wet crunch and a deafening bang against the white, hot grill it rested upon. The metal construct stood still and silent for several agonizing moments before it finally began to pitch backward, creaking like a rusty door before banging to the ground, dead or asleep or whatever the shit I just did. I prodded it a few times before cautiously stepping around it and continuing up. Something didn't want me to reach the top, and I felt pretty good about it. The rest of my climb was relatively uneventful, broken only by the odd hot dog squid or scuttling pork ribs. It was a full 23 flights up that I was at last roughly level with the top of the tower, the walkway branching around it in a perfect wall-to-wall spider's web. Up close, the sight of the brain flies was more awesome and more hideous than I could have imagined. Bathed in that alien light, the roaring funnel of unearthly life was almost too beautiful to have burst its way from formerly human skulls. The death toll they represented must have been staggering, That terrible beauty rather harshly clashed with the figure standing a few yards ahead on a raised rectangular platform, back turned towards me as it overlooked the tower and appeared to fidget with a large console. I blinked hard, trying to register its strangely familiar shape. It had no apparent head or neck, its body only a broad, rounded mass, like a squashed barrel. A pair of dark, mushy limbs extended from its sides. A white object bobbed around on its upper surface. I didn't want to accept what I was looking at. It was too much. Even now, it was just fucking stupid. It was a hamburger and a chef's hat, like the logo. If I could sneak up on it, I could plunge my mighty blade straight down into its big, stupid breadhead. There was no way it could hear me coming above the teeming bugs. I took my first light, cautious step. It whirled around. Fuck. For a long time, we just stared at one another. The rancid-looking beast regarded me with its bulging, bloodshot eyes the size of soccer balls, oozing and twitching as it looked me up and down. I didn't know what else to do, but was going to finally break the staring contest. I lowered my shovel and raised a hand in greeting. Hello? The moldering sandwich stood still for a few more moments before those slimy eyeballs rolled in their lidless sockets, as if I'd just said or done something even more ridiculous than the thing's very existence. I almost began stammering as a follow-up statement, when one of its slimy appendages suddenly reached for a huge, bright red switch on its console and nonchalantly pressed it. It raised one sludgy beef hand and gave a sort of toodaloo finger wave as its entire platform abruptly plunged through the floor and disappeared out of sight. The elevator shaft sealed off behind it, and moments later, the catwalks began to flood with activity. From somewhere on the opposite side of that glowing, flying brain tornado came dozens of new shapes. Meat beings were pouring from some unseen new opening, already looking larger and meaner than any of the oozing rejects I've been mowing down. I didn't suppose my little gremlin friends were waiting nearby with any flamethrowers. The first thing to reach me was a squiggly, bear-sized yellow mass of soft, tangled limbs, rolling along at a seemingly abnormal speed. It looked almost like an octopus until a long neck snaked out from its warty folds, snapping at me with an orange beak. A giant, boneless chicken. Why was this my life? With the surge of contemptuous bloodlust, I hacked mercilessly into the abominable thing long after it had ceased moving, only for something else to whistle just over my head. I spun around in the shredded remnants of the octobird, coming face to a featureless doll crotch with a pair of skin legs. 6 feet high and fused at the hips, I staggered back, foolishly slipping in the scattered chicken guts and landing flat on my back. The legs terminated in needle-sharp lances of bone, precariously balancing on the metal mesh of the walkway. They raised one wicked lance into the air again, aiming straight for my eyes, and it was a miracle I put the shovel between us quickly enough. The legs seemed to momentarily vanish at the speed of its strike. It took a moment to regain its balance as it bounced off the shovel, the thin tips of its bone holding up distressingly well. I barely managed to sit upright as it took a stab for my heart, and I scrambled to my feet just in time to deflect the third strike.